Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams. Episode 97. I'm joined by a very special guest today. I'm joined by Andy Reid, MBE. Andy, how are you?
I'm good, John. Yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
No, you're very welcome. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, as we'll get into and talk about. And I'll let Andy tell his full story. But a little bit of background on Andy. Some of you might know Andy already because, of course, he's been on various news programs after the London Marathon itself. So I wanted to get Andy on to talk about his journey because for me, it's sort of very inspirational where he's come from. Andy lost both your legs and your right arm in Afghanistan. Was that right? 2009, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And then since then has done some incredible endurance events, including the London Marathon, which we'll talk about, and has written a book called Standing Tall, and also started a charity called the Standing Tall Foundation, which we'll put all the links and everything else in the description if you want to check any of that out. And if you want to check Andy out, you can Andy Reid 2506 on Instagram. So that's at Andy Reid 2506 on Instagram. So first question for me, Andy, really is talk to me about, I suppose, what led you to join the military in the first place, really?
Yeah, well, my granddad was in the army in the Second World War, obviously back in the day, like most
Yeah.
people's grandfathers. And we used to go out to their house on a Sunday, as you do, and speaking to my grandfather and seeing his medals on the wall and telling me all these amazing stories of his time in the armed forces. And I weren't very academic. I weren't very good at school, at maths and English and stuff like that. But I was quite sporty, and I just thought, maybe follow my grandfather's footsteps and join the armed forces.
Were you always quite driven and competitive? Was that something that was in you already, would you say?
Not really, not until I joined the army kind of thing, really. I was just more of like, I'd always tried my best at everything that I did. But I weren't really into football. I was played rugby league. I played on the wing. I used to do cross country running. I did the 100-meter run and relay running at school. So I was always quite fit and active, and obviously wanted to win, but didn't always win, but wanted to. But I was quite tall, and I was quite slim as well, so I
Right.
was the stature of a decent runner.
Okay. And was the mental resilience, was that already there before you joined the military? Was that something you always had?
I've done some things in my past. I'd broke my wrist a couple of times at school. I broke my leg in three places in a car crash when I was quite young.
Right.
So yeah, I'd faced adversity before, and I think when you face adversity, then you become resilient. You don't wake up as a triple amputee and be Mr. Resilient. Obviously,
Yeah.
these things that come throughout your life with putting ourselves into difficult situations. Obviously, the military do that quite a lot, make you do things outside of your comfort zone, so you become more resilient. So yeah, I was never no one's ever like resilient, are they? It's something that you build
Yeah.
resilience through
Yeah.
obstacles and traumas and things that happen throughout your life. You build resilience.
Yeah. And before you let's say before you went out to Afghanistan, before, what happened, we'll talk about what happened. What did you see your life looking like? Did you have a plan for that? Did you see how where it was all gonna take you?
I wanted to do 22 years in the military.
Yeah.
I joined in 1997.
Yeah.
I did a tour of Northern Ireland. I did a tour of Kosovo, two tours of Iraq. I'd done 13 years up until the point that I got injured, and my plan was to do 22 years in the military, retire, and then go on to do another career. What that would have been, and I'm not sure at that stage. Maybe it's driving instructor or something like that.
Right.
Who knows where? I used to teach people to drive tanks in the military,
Okay.
so I thought if I was teaching people to drive a tank when I leave the military, surely I can teach someone to drive a car. That should be quite simple.
Yeah.
So I probably would have gone on to do that. I think, yeah.
Yeah. And can you talk me through the day itself that your life changed pretty much? What can you talk me through what you remember from that day?
Yeah, so I went on a routine foot patrol over in Afghanistan. I was a section commander, so I was
Yeah.
in charge of several other people. Routine patrol, done hundreds like it before that. And about 10 minutes into that patrol, unfortunately, I stepped on what's called a pressure plate IED, so an improvised explosive device.
Yeah.
So the next thing I was aware of, I lay on the floor, on my back, a big dust cloud around me, couldn't hear anything. I wasn't in any pain at the time, felt quite strange, and I knew something violent had happened to me, but I felt like a sudden numbness throughout my body. one of my colleagues come over, started giving me some morphine, started putting some tourniquets on my limbs. They then got me onto a stretcher, put me on the back of a vehicle, took me back to the main camp. The doctor there did an amazing job of tying all my wounds up. Flew me back to Camp Bastion, as it was at the time there, where they put me into an induced coma. And then they flew me not too far away from where you are, John, is Selly Oaks Hospital in Birmingham.
Oh yeah, the military. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they flew me to there. I spent 3 days in critical care in a coma. They said my vital statistics were quite strong, so they brought me out of the coma. The doctor come over, explains to me what had happened over about a 2 hour period, like that, what limbs I'd lost and things like that. And I just kind of lay there and thought, I'm a survivor, not a victim. I thought I'm still here, and unfortunately, a guy called Sam Valentine passed away on a patrol that I was on. A guy called Fusilier Bush, I actually sent him to help St. Valentine. He also stepped on an IED and lost his life.
Wow.
And thought, I'm still here, so start to set myself some goals and start moving myself forward. And that's pretty much what I did.
When it happened, did you realize how serious it was? You mentioned about the numbness and the not really.
Well, I looked down and didn't see my legs at that stage, but
So you actually saw that straight away. You were actually able to see that you'd lost your limbs. Yeah.
yeah. So when I woke up, it were. I'm not going to say it didn't come as a shock to me.
Yeah,
Obviously,
of course. Yeah.
it's shocked, but I was aware that kind of thing that they weren't there, right? And yeah, like I said, I just thought, well, I'm surviving, not a victim, and let's just move on. Some guys didn't come home, and then you're looking around the ward in Selly Oaks there, and other guys have been injured, and some guys have lost legs and lost arms, lost their sight. Some guys are paralysed,
Yeah.
So you're in amongst other people with similar injuries to yourself as well.
When you was there any moment when you questioned whether you could move forward from this when it happened?
Not really. No, not really.
No.
My mum was an amputee from the car crash that I had when I was 5.
Ah, okay.
So my mum lost her leg, so I knew what life was like as an amputee.
Yeah.
There was other people there. One of the military guys who were there had lost his leg in Iraq. He was walking around with a prosthetic leg on, so you can see hope straight away. You see other people in a situation that you're in and think, well, they've got on done it. So if I work hard and set myself some goals,
Yeah.
then I can do the same thing.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of times the survivor, not a victim thing. Where did that mindset come from?
Like I say, I just thought I'm here, and
Yeah.
some of these guys are not here, and yeah, I've survived this incident. So let's just see what I can make out of it. I set
Yeah.
myself a long term goal of walking down the aisle with my then girlfriend, a middle term goal of getting my medal, my operational surge medal off the Duke of Wellington with all the rest of the guys I served with,
Yeah.
and then it's the immediate goal of going home for the weekend, and the doctor come walking around with his clipboard and his white coat on as they do, and said, "How you doing, Carl Reid?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm all right, sir. Yeah, just wondering when can I go home for weekend?"
Yeah.
And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I want to go home for weekend, spend some time with my family." And he said, "Well, I suppose when you get off your bed onto your wheelchair, out your wheelchair onto the floor, and then back in your wheelchair again in case you fall out of it." He said, "We'll let you go home for weekend." And I said, "Well, brilliant. I'll be going home on Friday." And he walked away shaking his head, and I thought, "Don't doubt me, pal. So I'm from up
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
you I'm stubborn as well. So because he put that little bit of doubt in my mind, it made me more determined to want to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's about, really, isn't it? Having a goal in the mind that you want to achieve, setting yourself that goal, but then also making other people aware of that's what you want to happen and that's what you want to achieve. And then people start believing in your journey.
Yeah.
A nurse come over to me and said, "Andy, I've heard you're going home on Friday." I said, "Yeah, I am, yeah." So, "Are you going to need some medication to take home with you?" I said, "Well, yeah, probably will do." So she went away and started getting this medication. And then someone else said, "Andy, I've heard you're going home on Friday." I went, "Yeah." I said, "Well, where do you live?" I said, "Well, I live in a two-bed terraced house." She went, "Well, you're going to need a ramp and a bed probably downstairs." I went, "Yep, that's probably going to need to happen." So she went away and sorted that out.
Yeah.
So rather than just tell myself I was going to do something, by telling other people, this is what's happening,
Yeah.
then people start supporting that journey that you're gonna go on.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess people don't they see like you doing the motivational stuff speaking now, don't they? But they don't see that reality, do they, of like rebuilding again.
Mm.
Yeah. So what did the recovery look like day to day then for you?
So early on, it was just in the bed, just start doing some sit ups, just stay in the routine. Obviously, being in the military, I was fit anyway. We used to do 8 mile CFTs, 2 mile combat runs.
Yeah.
You had to do a 10 minute. I think it was a mile and a half in under 10 minutes was a basic fitness test. 45 sit ups. I think it was in 2 minutes. I think, and 45 press ups in under 2 minutes or whatever it was. So I was fit anyway. I've been in Afghanistan. I was trimmed down. I'd been like not drinking for like the 3 months that we were over there.
Yeah.
You're eating proper, you're exercising every day, you're carrying a lot of weight around, so you're super fit. So for me, it's about keeping that routine. So still get up at 6 in the morning, get a shave, get my breakfast, start doing some sit ups in bed. I was very lucky. I had no internal injuries whatsoever. So I
Okay.
lost my limbs, and that was. It sounds bad, you lost 3 limbs. That sounds horrendous, but that it was quite straightforward, my limb loss. I had no spinal injury, I had no internal injuries, nothing like that. So I could start getting back into my fitness straight away just by doing basic sit-ups in bed and that kind of thing. So just start with that journey and then went down to Headley Court in Surrey, the Army's Rehabilitation Centre. At the time, it's now in Loughborough, the DNRC in Loughborough, £300 million facility, absolutely
Mm.
amazing. Down to Headley Court, and then start learning to walk again and start getting fitted with limbs and just start on that journey again.
Brilliant. How much would you say was physical versus mental of your recovery, Andy?
Um, I think most of it was physical because I was
Yeah.
already mentally struck. And like I say, there's other guys who've been injured maybe 6 months before me, triple amputee. I could see him walking. So you think, well, he's triple amputee, he's walking, so there's no reason why I can't walk. I'm not going to ask him how he's got up about walking. So I'm not gonna do that. But I'm gonna work out for myself. But I can see that there's going to be progression there.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the banter's happening down there with all the lads still, all the army guys. We're still having banter with each other. It's not like a civilian where you maybe lose your leg in a car crash and then you get your leg amputated and then you go home. We're at a centre where there's probably at that time maybe 30, 40 other injured guys
Yeah.
who lost limbs who were all there together. So we're playing, you know, seated badminton, seated volleyball. We're in wheelchairs. We're racing each other around in wheelchairs. We've still got the camaraderie. We've still got like I want to be the best. It's army be the best. So there's like some guys down there from the paras, some guys down there from the Marines. So I want to be better than them because
Yeah.
I've still got that mental mindset of being
Yeah.
the best and still representing my regiment and my battalion to the best of my ability. So it's still about that as well.
Yeah. And did you ever suffer with a loss of identity when you left the military?
Only after I left, only like I did 2 years rehab. It took 2 years to get to a position where I could leave the military. And then yeah, your uniform's gone. You're no longer in the military anymore, so you lose that sense of belonging. You lose that sense of identity of who you was.
Right.
But luckily for me, a really good friend of mine, Stuart, he's just crazy running ultra marathons and
Yeah.
150-mile runs around the Lake Districts and crazy stuff like that. But yeah, he left the military after his 22 years at about the same time that I left the military from being injured. And he's from St Helens and a good mate of mine. So
Yeah.
we kind of like left together through different circumstances, but we could still see each other and have that sense of belonging together and that kind of thing. But yeah, you do. That's what you miss the most. You don't miss from the military being messed about and missing your best mate's wedding and missing your birthday because you're on tour somewhere and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You miss the banter, you miss the camaraderie, you miss the lads. So it's just trying to find that again through various things like breakfast clubs and things like that. But
Yeah.
my my journey obviously been at a massive whirlwind. I've not really stopped. I went on a world cruise in 2010 when I was just going through my rehabilitation still. And then I won the Sun Military Award for overcoming adversity that I become like the one of the main poster boys for the ABF, the Soldiers Charity, the Army's national charity. So
Yep.
they were sending me doing skydiving and Andy, do you want to go and do this bike ride? Do you want to go and do this? So I've not even up to now, it's been 17 years, ever really sat and had time to sit and reflect. And
Okay.
I don't want that time, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm keeping myself busy, and you keep yourself busy, at some point in my life, I will probably sit and like, what we're all about, you know. But up until now, I
Yeah.
keep myself busy. I keep setting myself these challenges to do.
So do you think then that that's how you've stopped any sort of bitterness or resentment happening because you've kept yourself mentally busy and physically busy?
Well, from I've never resented or had any bitterness towards the military because
Right.
ultimately I joined the army.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I walked into a careers office and said, I want to join the armed forces. You
Yes.
know, I'm not that naive to know that the army sending you to dangerous places
Yeah.
and dangerous things can happen.
Yeah.
So for me, oh, sorry, I'll just ignore that. Can you still see me there, John?
Yeah, I can still hear you, mate. You're right. Okay, carry on.
Um, so yeah, for me, I believe if you want to be an electrician, you could get electrocuted and you could die.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with that, then don't be an electrician.
Yeah.
You know, if you won't be a scaffolder, you could fall off the scaffolding and you could be in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
Yes.
Again, if you're not happy with that, then don't be a scaffolder.
Yeah.
If you won't work in office, you might get a paper cut on your finger. It's a dangerous world out there, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
so
Yeah.
I've
Interesting how we got from an IED to a paper cut, but there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. I've never blamed the military. I've never
Yeah.
blamed Jamie, the young guy in front of me with his metal detector. He was a valiant man. It's his job to try and find these ID devices. For whatever reason, he didn't find it. He stepped over it. I stepped on it.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. There's no point blaming somebody else for what happened. It's about taking responsibility for your own actions, and then
Yeah.
that's how you can be on.
Yeah, that's important. So, why do you think then that a lot of people avoid sort of discomfort or anything like that in society, Andy?
But I think they're just probably nervous about it, and they're
Yeah.
apprehensive about what it could be and how difficult it could be. But I suppose with the military that I was in, they're always putting you into your uncomfortable zone, aren't they? They're always making you do things that you don't particularly want to
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah.
Sit outside in the rain for like 2 hours on the time because the Welsh are going to come and attack us again when you're on exercise or
Yeah.
making you like lie in a puddle thinking, well, there's some dry at the side of the path there, so why am I not lying in a puddle? Because at some point, you may be the only option to lie in that puddle.
Yeah.
So if you can do it and you've done it now, you're in your comfort zone. You're happy with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You experience it. And I think a lot of people are probably apprehensive and nervous about putting themselves into an uncomfortable situation,
Yeah.
and that's understandable, isn't it? But
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm more of like I want to push
Yeah.
what can be done? Push the boundary. I used to ride sports bikes. If you ever ridden a sports bike, no one rides a sports bike at 30 miles an hour or 70 miles an hour. No, that doesn't happen, does it? Sports bikes are, they give you that adrenaline rush, don't they? And that kind of thing. I did
Yeah.
a parachuting course before I got injured. So I'd done a couple of static line jumps where you go up to 10,000 feet, jump out of an airplane. Your parachute opens after about a second. You get a massive wedgie, and then you fall down to earth. It's amazing. But then you've got to pack. Then you've got to pack your chute and go and do it again. So it's like, right, I've just done that. That was amazing. But now I'm responsible for packing this parachute correctly, making sure it's
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah.
Get back in that plane and do it again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose that in the military, we're always putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations and learning from that and becoming better people and stronger people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Why does doing difficult physical challenges still matter to you then? No.
It's just having a goal, and you'll know yourself having done. You say you've done the London Marathon 4 times. Sorry, the Manchester Marathon a couple of times. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've done other ones, and you get that pre-event blues, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's really difficult. I really struggle with that. So by always having something that I want to go and do, a challenge,
Yeah.
this one happened to the London Marathon. In the past, I've done Kilimanjaro, so I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with the first trip amputee to do that.
Right.
But I didn't just wake up one day, get on a plane to Tanzania.
Yeah.
I climbed half of Mount Snowdon like 12 times.
Yeah.
I climbed to the top of Mount Snowdon 17 times. So I'm always setting myself like an immediate, middle term, and long term goal to get to where I want to be. And by always having that, I've always got something that I'm always aiming for. I'm always working towards. I've always got a reason to get out of bed and,
Yeah.
and go and do something.
And what attracted you to the endurance events specifically, Andy? Like the Kilimanjaro, the marathon, what was it about those particular events?
It weren't really the endurance of it. It was just I'd done Kilimanjaro in 1999 when I was about 22, 23 years old,
Okay.
obviously before I got injured. So it was about, can I still do this with the disability and the injuries that I've got? Is this still going to be achievable?
Yeah.
And the same with the marathon. I think I would have done a marathon if I'd not been injured. You
Yeah.
know, at some point, whether when I was still serving or after I left the military, when I've got more time and maybe I would have kept up with my fitness, I'm sure, at some point, it's an iconic thing. Into London Marathon is an
Yeah.
iconic event that's on everyone's bucket list. I'm 50 this year as well, so it would have been great to have done that. I think it's about doing things that I would have done before if I'd not been injured, and it's about showing people what can be achieved beyond disability,
Yeah.
with the right mindset and the right support network around you.
So might seem a bit of an obvious question, but speaking from your own experience, how physically difficult is it to run and complete a marathon as a triple amputee?
Yeah, it was hard work. It was really hard work, because I can only walk at about 2 to 3 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got this liner on here. This leg got this right leg's got this liner on. So
Right.
it's wrapped carbon fiber. That leg sweats quite a lot.
Yeah.
So then the skin starts to break down. So every 2 miles, I have to take the leg off, clean it, put it back on again, and go again.
Every 2
Uh,
miles you had to do that, yeah?
about every 2 miles,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes, but it's still the time still adds up. And on that marathon day, it was absolutely red hot. It was
Yeah.
one of the hottest days of the year so far. And obviously training up north in St Helens, it was raining and windy and everything during the training. That's the thing with the marathon, isn't it? People start training in January and it's dark and it's windy and it's miserable. And then all of a sudden April comes and it's like red hot. And it's like you can't train for that unless you're lucky enough to be able to go abroad
Yeah.
somewhere for a couple of weeks. But the average person can't really train for the weather that's going to be. And obviously the legs wrapped in carbon fiber, so like um, your feet will swell,
Yeah.
and your shoes or trainers have got adjustment within that. This leg it swells, but there's nowhere for it to go to. So
Right, okay.
so it's like having like really mad intense cramp in your calf.
Yeah.
So it's taking it off again, giving it a quick rub and going again. So yeah, it was hard work. It was one of the hardest challenges that I've done so far. And the other thing with it as well was Kilimanjaro did that in 14 days, day on, day off, walking. There was no real time constraint with that. With this, you've got till 23:59, all the events shut.
Yeah.
So you might, if you don't keep pushing yourself and keep walking along and keep trying to, dig deep and get going, you're going to put all that effort in and get to the end and not get a medal because no one's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
What was your training like, Andy? What did your training involve?
Yeah, I live in St Helens, so there's a thing here called the Rainford Bypass. So from where I live, up to a place called Windmill Island, there's a Starbucks. It's about 4 mile.
Right.
And it's flat and it's quite a wide path. There's a bit of a gradient to it, but not too much. New Year's Day I started. I just went out New Year's Day and did 4 mile. And that was on like a Sunday, I think it fell on. And then the Thursday I decided I'll do like another 6 mile. And then I just like kind of built it up
Yeah.
and like that really. And then I went down to a local sports centre and they've got a cricket pitch. Again, it's flat. There's benches around the pitch so I can stop and take my leg off and sit down. That was a difficult problem, trying to find somewhere where I could sit down and take my leg off and stop. Whereas running down around the local park or down a canal path, then there's nowhere for me to sit down and do that. So other factors had to come in. So the most I walked before the marathon itself was 15 miles. Um, I did want to try and push myself further to do more, but I was just getting bored. I got to
Yeah.
the 15-mile point. I'm like, right, I'm just bored now, walking up and down, up and down, up and down, or round and round and round in circles. So I should have done more really than that, because obviously 15 miles only just past halfway, and
Yeah.
I had to go and do that again. So it was quite tough, yeah. And I made a couple of mistakes on the way around. My leg was really aching, and I thought, I'll put some Tiger Balm on my leg, and I not put Tiger Balm on my leg in training. I've been using ibuprofen gel, and I put Tiger Balm on, and after about another, say, 20, 30 minutes of walking, my leg was actually on fire. It was like,
Yeah.
oh my, it was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I was like, save a leg off, get a load of water, wash it all down, wash the liner off, and all that. So they, no, they do stay, don't they? Do everything in training. Don't do anything for the first time on the actual
Yeah, it's classic, yeah.
event itself. And I should have knew that really from military training.
Yeah.
But I just thought, you make mistakes, don't you? Your head's not always
No,
in the
mate.
right place thinking. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, especially in London 'cause it's a big deal. It's a lot going on. What kept you going on the day?
Again, I'm just stubborn, be honest. I am a stubborn northerner, but
Yeah.
saying a lot of people had sponsored me as well. I raised a lot of money for the event, so I didn't want to let them people down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let myself down. I told a lot of people that I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously out of respect again for the guys who didn't come home from Afghanistan, and other operational tours that the army's involved with, was stopped at the Afghan and Iraq Memorial. It's on it's just by the side of the Thames there,
Yeah.
about mile 25, something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, right,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
so it was stopped there and had a minute's silence to pay some respects there. So that last 2 miles was probably the really toughest part of the event. So
Yeah.
stop there and pay respects and actually realize why I'm actually doing it,
Yeah.
and being grateful for being able to do it. Like I
Yeah.
say, some guys didn't come home. Some guys are paralyzed from the waist down. For some guys, it's just not possible for them to do. So I think that's the thing. I am able to do these things, and it's hard work, but you can dig in, can't you? You can dig deep, and I'm not some superhero. I'm not some special person or anything like that. I just set myself these goals and these challenges,
Yeah.
and I'm just stubborn. I think that's the main thing. I'm just proper stubborn northerner.
Yeah, no, there's a
A lot
lot
of
of
people,
yeah, there's a theme on here when I interview marathon. Everyone's pretty much the
yeah.
same. There's a stubbornness to it because there has to be, I think, to get through it. So, based on what you were just saying about the money and the causes, what was it that made you start the Standing Tall Foundation?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of charity events for different military charities. Like jumped out of airplanes, done like 400-mile bike rides, kayaking events, all kinds of stuff. I sent the money that I'd raised to those charities, and I didn't really see the impact that was happening with
Yeah.
that funds that I was raising. St Helens, where I live, it's a great town. It's a working class town. It had the mines back in the day, the coal mines. It
Yeah.
had Pilkinson's glass, big glass industry. And now it's on a bit of a decline. People are struggling with the mental health and things like that. People are struggling with addiction problems. And I thought if I set up my own foundation in my hometown, I can see the impact that's going to have on people firsthand. And it also gives me another reason to get out of bed in the morning and
Yeah.
go to work. And I see people waiting for an appointment with our counsellor. They're looking a bit glum, a bit gloomy. Their life's not going in the direction they thought they was going to be going in. And then I see them again a week later, and they sat there, smile on their face, waiting to see the counsellor again for another session. And that's because I get out of bed. That's because I
Yeah.
do what I do, and that inspires me to keep doing that. So it's like a win-win situation, really. I'm
Yeah.
I'm helping other people, but also give myself a purpose.
Absolutely.
As well.
You mentioned mental health. Why do you think particularly a lot of men struggle with asking for help on that side?
Yeah, I think they just think that they're too big or too brave or too strong or
Yeah.
or whatever it is, or they're embarrassed as well. No, maybe they're embarrassed to ask for help, to say, listen, yeah, my relationship's not going very well. Or yeah, I'm grieving the loss of my parents, or the loss of my pet dog, or
Yeah.
whatever it could be. I think maybe they may be embarrassed as well, or maybe they just don't know who to reach out to and ask for help for. So that's one of the reasons, I think, really. We have a good mix of, it's probably, I would say, probably 70% women who do come to us for mental health, and 30% men, but
Oh, okay.
it's getting better. I think more men are reaching out. I see a counsellor once a month, just to keep myself in check, just to
Yeah.
offload. some stuff and just tell them where I'm at, especially around the anniversary of getting injured, the anniversary of Remembrance Day, and that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it is getting better. But yeah, I think anyone can just reach out and talk. And if you don't want to reach out and talk, then maybe get a journal and write things down in a journal or in a diary. You
Yeah.
know, write things down in there,
Yeah.
or even speak to yourself. I speak to myself
Yeah.
quite a lot. Self talk's quite a big thing, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
and on celebrate success, especially with running, or with walking or endurance events. Like if I get to the next lamppost, once we get there, like yes, I've smashed it. Right, where's the next lamppost? Where's the next marker? That bench there. Let's
Yeah.
get to there now. Let's push on. And when you
Yeah.
get there, give yourself a pat on the back for
Absolutely.
doing that. I think
Yeah.
that kind of thing as well. We can push yourself forward.
What impact are you most proud of with standing tall?
Um, Well, actually, from doing this marathon event, there's a guy who reached out to me and said that his wife had watched the marathon on TV, seen me, and then seen me on the TV the next day with the Ben Shepherd and
Yeah.
cat dealer and thing, and said that his wife had not left the house for like 2 years. She like was struggling with some issues that she had going on. She'd not left the house. She's seen that and said to her husband the next day, "I want to go. I want to go to the shops." So she's seen me doing the marathon, and that inspired her enough that she wanted to get out of the house and go out for the day.
Brilliant.
So it's little stories like that I hear really, and people who just send me like little messages saying, "Andy, I've been to see your counselor today. They're absolutely fantastic. I feel 100 times better." You know, that just inspires me to keep going on, and yeah, just little things like that. Really, you know, I'm quite a humble guy. I'm just a normal guy from St Helens who's this has happened to me. And for me, it was like, well, let's see what we can do now. Let's keep moving ourselves forward and push on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not like like Joe Wickster. I don't want to drop name, but no Joe Wickster guy jumped out of bed. Let's do some star jumps. Everyone do some like Joe. Life's difficult. Life's tough for a lot of people. You know the cost of living crisis at the moment. You
Yeah.
know, I've got an 8-year-old little girl sleeps in our bed every night till 10 o'clock. Then I've got to go and put in in her own bed. You know, life is difficult for a lot of people. But I think if we can all just do little things just to help other people or help ourselves, and maybe trying to inspire somebody else to be the best version of themselves, then that's what we should all
Yeah.
aim to be.
Absolutely. So if somebody listening to this does feel like stuck, overwhelmed, or a little bit hopeless, what would you say to them, Andy?
Yeah, I can say reach out to the Standing Tall Foundation. You know,
Yeah.
we are based in St Helens, but our counsellor can see you over a Zoom call or over a Teams call. You can still have sessions that way as well. I would say definitely speak to someone like a friend, a family member, a work colleague. Go and see your GP. There's Andy's Man Club. They're nationwide.
Yeah, I've seen that on Instagram. That's very
No.
good. That is, yeah. And the man
Yeah,
club, yeah.
great things. Or if you are female, or if you're watching this as well, there's other women's groups out there that you can go and speak to as well.
Yeah.
Just put your hand up and just ask for support. You know, I ask for help all the time from like random people. So I'm driving to Birmingham next week for an appointment at the hospital there.
Yeah.
I'm driving my car. I'm going to be thirsty. Driving my car. I'm going to go and buy a bottle of water. I can't actually open a bottle of water unless I bite it open.
Yes.
So I'll say to the guy at the counter, "Do me a favor, mate. Open that water for me." "Oh, yeah, no dramas." He'll open the water.
Yeah.
You know, I ask people for help, random people for help, at least 2 or 3 times a day, near every day, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I don't feel ashamed to ask for help.
No,
I think we should all do that.
absolutely. So, a couple of final questions for me. What do you think people are capable of that they currently underestimate, Andy, based on your experiences?
Well, I'll say we're capable of
Yeah.
anything at all. It's just maybe you've got to do it in a different way. You know, so for me doing the London Marathon, also I was never going to run the London Marathon, you know. So by speaking to Marathon, speaking to them, saying, "Listen, I'm going to walk this event," they're going to write, "Well, there's a cut-off time of midnight." Right, okay, well, I think that's 14 hours. I've got to do it. I'll start doing my training. I'm going to set myself a goal of doing it in 13 hours. I'll set myself a goal of doing it in, and that's what I work towards.
Yeah.
So it's about like, you know, I can't ride a bike, but I can ride a hand bike.
Yes.
So I did a 400-mile bike ride on a hand cycle. You know, then I did a kayaking event, a kayak from Devizes to Westminster. and got a special adapted arm made so I could use the kayak thing.
Yeah.
So it's about adapting. So not absolutely everything is possible with the right that mindset, obviously the right support network around us, and adapting to do it safely
Yeah.
for your ability. You know, like climbing Kilimanjaro, most people do it in 6 or 7 days. That weren't going to happen for me, so I did it in 14 days. So I
Yeah.
did a full day's walking, had a day off, some massages, some physio, full day's rest, got the fuel back on board, and then went again, and it
Yeah.
and it and it was achieved. I achieved that.
Yeah.
So anything is possible. It's just maybe
Absolutely.
you've got to do it a little bit differently.
And what's something that losing your limbs has taught you about life?
Um, just again, just I'm grateful. I'm grateful for being here. To be
Yeah.
honest, you know what I mean. I got very easily could have bled out there. You know, there's other friend of mine. Like I say, the guy he's on an IED device. He lost 3 limbs and he passed away. You know, and so I'm grateful for being here. And life is difficult. This is quite a tough gig.
Yeah.
Triple C. You know, I do get in pain. I do get grumpy sometimes. I get frustrated sometimes. But it's about sitting and reflecting and thinking, actually, life's okay. I'm here. You know what I mean? I think it's also being grateful for what you've got, because you know that person who's homeless wants that 1 bedroom flat that you're living in, and
Yeah.
you want the 2 bedroom flat, and then you want a 3 bedroom semi-detached house, and then you want a 5 bedroom detached house. There's always someone who wants something like that you've got. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's just about sitting and reflecting and being grateful for what you have got in life.
Yeah. There's that wonderful expression, "In the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And finally, from me, bit of a philosophical question, which, feel free to go into as much depth as you want on this. How do you want your story to make people feel, Andy?
Um. Well, hopefully inspire a few people to maybe
Yeah.
believe in themselves, to believe at what they can achieve and what they can do. Um. Maybe feel a bit uplifted that there's some really nice people out there in the world,
Yeah.
on this marathon. Obviously, I was at like mile 16, 17. They closed the roads, they took the portaloos away. I needed a toilet, and some people let me come into the house and use the toilet. Some amazing random people let me
Yes.
do that. That there is some amazing, very kind people out there. I think when we
Yes.
do these marathon events and we see the community of London come out, and we've got people from the Caribbean there, we've got Muslim people there, we've got Indian people there, we've got people from every relation and religion out giving you high fives and celebrating what you're doing. You think actually, yeah, the world's a nice place. It really is. There's some amazing people out there.
I think you see the I think for me, I'm a little bit biased, obviously, because I've done quite a few of them, but I do think you see the best in humanity at big marathon events. You see some incredible, both people like yourself. I mean, I've seen some unbelievable people doing marathons, and then, actually going through the whole experience. And then you see the people around it. And it's the people around it, I think, sometimes that make it, because I mean, there's nothing like London. I mean, obviously, again, I'm biased because I'm from the UK, but there's nothing like that. I mean, the last 5K down the Mall and down the embankment. I mean, there's nothing like that in the world. I've never experienced anything like it.
It's amazing. Yeah, I did the Washington DC marathon
Right.
about 7 8 years ago on an adapted mountain bike with stabilizers, the Marine Marathon, and the streets are lined by the Royal Marines, the American Marines, all the way on our
Right.
route. And again, absolutely
Yeah.
amazing experience. And like I said, to see people come out, people on the rooftops playing the guitar and singing songs and giving you sweets and high fives and all that kind of thing. The only thing I would say is that it took me like 12 and a half hours, so I was still doing it at 10:30 at night, and everyone had gone home by then. So just
Yes.
stay out a bit longer if you can. Just stay out,
Yeah, that's the lessons. Yeah, I had a few
stay out
people
a
do it
bit
like
longer
you.
with them.
Yeah,
Those still
yeah,
people who are still pushing on.
absolutely. Anything else you'd like to add, Andy, this morning?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for getting me on. And if people want to support the foundation, obviously they can go on the website. They can see how they can do that. But yeah, I'll just say to anyone out there who's thinking of getting into endurance events or into marathons or into running, it is possible.
Yes.
Anything possible at all. It's about setting yourself an immediate, middle term, a long term goal,
Yeah.
to get to where you should be to be. And for me, it's a bit like the old analogy in the tortoise and the hare. You know, I knew I was always going to come last, but I still finished,
Yes.
and that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Andy's story is obviously very extraordinary. It's an amazing story, and hopefully it'll teach people just think a little bit what we're capable of, we put our mind to it, and how we can take, real adversity and use that for the positive. So, like I said at the start, really, let's make sure we get this out. So, Standing Tall Foundation, obviously, Google's your friend there. Please make sure you give it a search. And if you need to reach out for anything at all and you're in a difficult spot, then obviously use the resources available. You can follow Andy on Instagram at Andy Reid 2506. And Andy's also got a book which is it's called Standing Tall. All of these links will be put in the description. So I just wanted to say, Andy, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy man, so massive respect for coming on and being so open and sharing your story, and I do appreciate that. So thank you very much. And if you're listening to this, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, Apple or Spotify. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to drop me a review or a comment on either one of those platforms as well, which does help. And I'm sure that this is definitely the podcast to share with your friends. So please share this podcast with anybody that you feel may benefit from it, particularly those who potentially are struggling or feeling a little bit stuck. Again, don't forget to follow Andy at Andy Reid 2506 on Instagram, myself at 12 Months to Marathon, and of course all the resources you can get from me are all in my bio there. So Andy, thank you very much again. I do really appreciate it, and I'll speak to everyone again very soon indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.